Good evening, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to the April 20th Board of Education meeting. I'll start by pointing out the exits. We have 2 exits in the rear of the building, rear of the room, and 2 exits behind us here on the dais. Let's all stand for the pledge. Okay, we're going to start tonight with our first recognition of visitors. There will be 2 opportunities for public comment at tonight's meeting. Now and at the end of the meeting, the first session will be capped at 30 minutes total. Anyone who does not get to speak now will be able to do so later. Comments including obscene language, libelous statements, threats of violence, or statements advocating racial, religious, or other forms of prejudice will not be tolerated. Anyone wishing to discuss matters involving individual district personnel or students should present those comments or concerns to the superintendent during normal business hours. And finally, remember, there is no cross-dialogue between speakers and members of the board. Anyone wishing to speak is invited to step forward, identify yourself, speak into the microphone, and limit your comments to 3 minutes. And when you're done, if you would like a direct response, you can leave your information on the sheet up on the dais. Microphone is right here. You'd have to get it from the table, yeah.
I was like, is it on? Where are we supposed to go? Okay. I'm gonna leave it to her to do that. Okay. My name is April McDowell. I'm a school counselor and co-department chair of the Student Services Department at Cornwall Central High School.
And I'm Barbara Parnes. I've spent half my life working at this district, and I've never come here. So I'm a little nervous.
We speak to children every day. We speak to our staff every day. We do not usually present at a board meeting, so apologies for any of our nerves that appear today. But earlier today, we sent the Board of Education a letter on behalf of the Student Services Department, as well as Mrs. Argenio and Mr. Dade received that letter as well. We're here really just to advocate for the position of the school social worker, the second school social worker at the high school. We understand with the federal money that was provided during the COVID-19 pandemic, we were able to add that position, and we have felt that it has been an invaluable resource to our high school in general. The health and safety of our school, as well as just the care of our children, is really added by that position. In this budget that we had seen from the last board meeting, that position was removed. And just as to point out to the Board of Education, we understand that a lot of the federal positions got taken over by retirements. So a lot of those positions were able to be kept because of retirements. In our office, we don't have that. We do have a retirement that keeps our SEL school counselor, who's Kelly Clyde. She gets to remain essentially because we do have a counseling retirement. But our school social worker, we don't have any retirements in that area. So we just wanted to come here in support of that.
We need more hands on deck, not less. Having a school social worker, a second one, in that high school building is not a luxury. It's a necessity. And having worked here all these years, I cannot believe that this district would not support that need. I can't even believe that it's not in the budget.
The letter really cited that the recommendation for school social workers is 1 to 250 students. We are around 1,100 students in the high school. We have been operating with one school social worker for almost the last 15 years. Prior to that, we had a shared high school counselor with one of the elementary schools. So 15 years ago, the Board of Education added that position as a full-time one, and we're asking you to add that second one now. Those mental health needs of not only the students and in our community, but also, youth in America these days really need it. So,
And just, in there are students and families, I'm sure, that feel the urge to talk about this and support this, but this isn't something that we could ask our families in struggles to do. I don't think that's appropriate. So we're that voice right now. I think we need to remain proactive. You do not want this district to be reactive in this after it happens.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, ladies.
Christine Diaz. I had no intention of speaking. However, driving in today, right as I pulled in the parking lot, my daughter called me and she said, I forgot to tell you something. She said, the co-taught teacher has been in there twice this week and he's coming every other day. She told me all about him. And so I just wanted to spread that good news if people are watching from home and to thank you again. Listen, it's a little late, but even just for her, you know, mental ambition and sort of feeling supported, it makes a difference. So I appreciate the effort that took, and so do the students. So thank you.
Thank you, Christine.
All right. I also actually wasn't going to say anything. My name's Victoria Halfpenny, but Ms. Parnes inspired me because 2 months ago I did email her because my son was still struggling in math, and he's still struggling in math. I'm actually just got him a tutor. He also is getting AIS, so thank you to the district. I can't imagine why we would cut anything, emotional support, academic support, anything at the high school right now, especially when so many kids are still struggling from the aftermaths. Something like math, it's cumulative. Some of these kids, like my son, missed 1.5 years practically of real in-person math. So please listen to the experts. They know what they're talking about. I've emailed Ms. Parnes, I've emailed Ms. Clyde, and they've really helped and both been exceedingly supportive in the last month or two since I reached out to them.
Thank you, Victoria.
Hello, my name is Christian Bernelli. Live at 101 Road. I'm also a candidate for the school board, but tonight I'd like to talk to you about BC Calculus, and particularly like the support that I got. And this is how I see it as a teacher. Students came to this school board once this year to ask for something. They came and did it the right way. They got a petition, they got signatures. It could be a little civics lesson. They came and asked you to give them BC Calculus. These are juniors, I'm presuming, going to be seniors. They have not had a regular high school experience. They asked for one thing, for one class, and it wasn't a priority for the administration. It wasn't a priority really for the board either. Although I'd like to thank the board members who did support it last board meeting. And this is what I think is why I'm disappointed by the fact of lack of support. Because I know how this is done because I've done it. Because in 1991, I was a high school student. I had taken every math class in my high school. All that was left, I asked for BC Calculus. And you know what? In 1991, at a time where they were in an economic recession, many school budgets failed, they found a way to do it. And later in 2011, when I worked at PNW BOCES, I started the New Visions engineering program with a bunch of people, and we got AP Calculus at a time right after the housing crisis. So that tells me it's possible if there's a will. And there seems to be a will on the part of the students. We have teachers who are willing to come to make it work. And really the empty seats at the table are the administration and the board. And I think that, you know, what's also disappointing is the reasons why it's hard to get done. The administration said something to the effect that it would take hard to get the AP certification for BC Calculus. As someone who has done that, who's applied for AP positions and has gone through the certification process, and knowing that it's really about 2 or 3 weeks, and much easier slam dunk when you already have a master teacher in the district, you should be able to do this. I also know that the easiest way, that costing it as a full FTE instead of a 6th class, artificially made the cost of it higher and harder to do in the budget. So I urge you to support the students, the teachers who are willing to make it work, and find a way either in the budget or outside the budget to allow those students, because if you don't do it this year, those students don't get a second chance to do that. Lastly, my wife, who's a professor of engineering at West Point, would say, STEM career, the most important thing to do for a STEM career is to strengthen the fundamentals of your math education. Because when she teaches cadets, the make or break point is whether they can handle the math or not. And you have an opportunity to do that, and I think you should. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brunelli. Anybody else? All right, we'll have a second comment period at the end of the meeting as well. Quickly, just there was one question that was brought up at last meeting. Ms. Barbara Gazda, she asked about the federal funds. I posted a link on the Facebook page in response. She asked if there's any money left in particular. It has all been allocated, and while it is still being drawn down to fund various positions throughout the district, active positions, through salaries and whatnot, by the end of the year, that money will be completely spent. But again, if you're interested in finding where all of that money has gone, those documents are posted on our Facebook page from last meeting. All right, that brings us to, and just an immediate comment, for those that have stepped up, we will have a budget conversation later. I don't want you to think that we're just moving on, but we will, I'm sure, address those concerns when we have that conversation. For now, let's move to reports. Colton Barry is here to do both. Colton, I will pass it on to you.
All right. This is the COH good news. On March 21st, COH recognized World Down Syndrome Awareness Day by wearing mismatched socks to raise awareness about Down syndrome. The idea was created because chromosomes are shaped like socks, and people with Down syndrome have an extra chromosome. April is Autism Awareness Month, so Thursday, April 13th, was Wear Blue Day at COH. Blue is the color used for autism awareness. Both theme days supported the idea of celebrating the differences amongst us to make us unique. ELA state testing took place on April 19th and 20th. The students put forth their best efforts, and their entire faculty and staff are very proud of how the children handled the challenge. The testing went very smoothly with minimal disruptions to the K-2 students. Math state testing will take place on May 2nd and 3rd. Tomorrow, April 21st, is opposite day at COH. Students are encouraged to dress like teachers, and teachers are encouraged to dress like students. This is a literal way of celebrating the SEL theme of the month, which is empathy. Children and adults will literally have a chance to put themselves in somebody else's shoes for a day. Also, on Friday, April 21st, the PTO is hosting a garden activities in honor of Earth Day, which is on April 22nd. Many classes have signed up to participate in the activities, such as mulching, planting, and general sprucing up of the COH garden. On April 28th, the PTO will be hosting their annual Mother-Son Fun Night. We are looking forward to all the fun activities planned. Save the date. On May 6, 2023, the COH school community will have a 100th year celebration for Cornwall-on-Hudson Elementary School. Some activities will include a DJ, balloon artist, and refreshments. All are invited. The event will run from 10 a.m. through 2 p.m. with a rain date of May 7th. The hope is to have many alumni and past staff visit and catch up for a few hours. This is Willow Ave good news. The character trait for April is sense of humor. Students at Willow Ave are full of laughter as they share their jokes with us each morning on the morning announcements. A big shout out to our students who performed in Willow's drama production of 101 Dalmatians. 101 Dalmatians Jr. last Friday night. They were outstanding and they knocked our spots off. Second grade students have been working on independent research projects making bottle biographies of famous Americans. Students will be visiting the second grade classes to take a gallery walk and learn about the famous Americans. Students in first grade traveled to the Mid-Hudson Discovery Museum where they were able to create and discover in their many hands-on exhibits. Third graders headed to the Bronx Zoo to learn about animals and their ecosystems. Kindergarten is enjoying classic stories and fairy tales that make their imagination sail. They are studying the message, character, and setting. The fox and the wolf are sly, and the prince and the princess are fetching. Our fourth graders are beginning to prepare for their transition to middle school. Mrs. Palumbo and Miss Barton came to visit our fourth graders this week to to introduce themselves and give the students a sneak peek into middle school. They are looking forward to visiting the middle school in May. Saturday, April 22nd is Earth Day. Students at Willow Ave will be celebrating on Friday by planting flowers and plants and participating in a day-long celebration of why it is important to be kind to the earth. Lastly, we were visited by the Cornwall Dragon at arrival this week as we get ready to choose a new name for our mascot. What will the dragon's name be? This is the Cornwall Elementary School good news. Since returning from spring break, Cornwall Elementary activities have been nonstop. Mrs. Aguilar's kindergarten class introduced a PEEPS experiment. They have predicted what would happen to a marshmallow peep when it is submerged in water, vinegar, and Sprite. After letting the peep sit for a few hours, they observed and drew a picture of the results. They all noticed that the bubbles in Sprite had a significant effect on the peep. Mrs. Noonan's class played Lucky Ducky to review for their Chapter 11 math test. Students worked in groups to answer review questions. They answered the questions independently and then conferred to check their answers with their group members. If groups came up with the wrong answer, they worked together to problem solve and find the correct solution. If the groups obtained a correct answer, they came up to the display to pick a duck. Hidden points were assigned to the ducks, and once ducks were picked from the display, teams added up their points to team totals. The students persevered and collaborated to get ready for their big test and had a lot of fun. Last week, music teacher leave replacement, Mr. Wood put together a third grade recorder recital. After months of hard work and practicing, students from Mrs. Connolly, Mrs. Gleason's, Mrs. Laux, Mrs. Moore, Mrs. Baxter, Mrs. Paytex, and Mrs. Camacho's class had the opportunity to perform to their families. This month, Cornwall Elementary School hosted an annual stand-up meeting where members of the 4th grade student council joined with the CCSD students to learn how to stand up to bullying and become advocates for themselves and others. They completed a wide variety of activities that involved cooperation, critical thinking skills, and kindness. We look forward to more opportunities to bring our students together. After a jam-packed month full of tutorials, preparations for our NYS exams, we are excited for the upcoming STEAM Expo, our spring concert, and lots of planned field trips. This is the Cornwall Middle School good news. CCMS worked very hard on their New York State ELA assessment this week. The math assessment will be May 2nd and May 3rd. Many thanks to all the families who attended the CCSD Multicultural Fair. It was a beautiful evening with delicious food, beautiful dancing, art, and performances, and we all enjoyed learning about our CCSD families. CCMS has been offering a wide variety of tutorials to provide support to students in a multitude of areas. These, in conjunction with our regular clubs and after-school activities programs, allow most of our students to stay and enjoy time with their classmates, friends, and teachers. We are very excited. Mrs. Palumbo and Mrs. Burton visited all the 4th grade classrooms to kick off our 5th grade transition and orientation program. CCMS is very excited to meet these eager and enthusiastic students when they come for a visit with their class. Lastly, this is a CCHS good news. As the seasons change and the weather becomes warmer, CCHS is preparing itself for exciting end-of-year festivities. AP exam and Regents reviews are beginning for all students and will carry us through the end of the year. As students and staff are planning their best methods to receive a good grade, luck goes out to everybody as we near those exams. On the athletic side, our spring sports are dominating, perfecting their records each game and meet. We are so excited to see how the rest of the season goes on. Outside of that, our committees and NHS are carefully planning the junior and senior prom. Keep an eye out for ticket sales and more information as the date is nearing sooner than we think. We are eager to see the near future for CCHS and what our school is doing to finish the year on the best note as possible.
Thank you, Colton. All right, and that brings us to our superintendent's report, so I will pass it on to Terry.
All right, and CJ, as always, if you have any studies or anything, you have our permission. But before you do so, I got to see CJ in action and the lacrosse team. I'm not sure what the beginning is it the face-off or the face-off king there? I'm still learning lacrosse lingo, but it was great to see you and your team in action last week. And besides that, I wanted to cede my time to Mr. DeBold and Mr. Simo, who are joined by some of our student leadership council. So I'll turn it over to them.
Okay, good evening, everybody. So I think maybe a few times we had an opportunity to talk about this leadership council that we formed this year. I'll allow them to really kind of talk about it. We kind of told them, speak from your heart about what this means to you as a group. But initially, what happened was Mr. Simo and I, kind of over the summer just said, we're kind of tired of hearing, well, COVID and these kids and, oh my God, so we kind of said, well, what are we going to do about it? So we kind of formed this almost as like a pilot. And I think with the intention and the goal to expand upon it. So we started with leaders in athletic teams. And again, the hope is really to expand upon this because they've done some really, really awesome things. And I think it's really a testament to when we do come together, come up with an outside box solution, figure out how we can kind of, mentor, lead, and allow them to kind of, show us how high they can fly. I mean, it is an amazing thing to see. So I'm going to yield my time to these three right here. We have Callie Balcom, we have Aiden Hallinan, and we have Tyler Reed. Tyler looks a little familiar. I think he got recognized at one of the other board ed meetings for his state title win. So we are lucky to have really awesome kids here. So I'll take it away. Here you go, Aiden.
Hello, I'm Aiden. I'm a senior in the high school. So all three of us were part of the leadership council. It consists of 2 kids from each varsity team, a junior and a senior. The coaches chose these kids to represent their team because they portray leadership qualities. So starting in September, we had a meeting or 2 every month. We've talked about what leadership is, qualities of good and bad leaders. We had the privilege of going to the Willow Avenue School. We read books to them about the thing before Christmas time, so that was a great experience. And we went to the middle school. They had a lot of questions about high school and the transition, so we were able to give feedback to them, our experience, and what to look for in the high school because they were pretty nervous for that. So throughout the meetings, we've talked about leadership, and we were able to interview our teammates to see their experiences, and we're going to reflect on that later on. And a couple months ago, I think around November, we took a survey, and they asked us what we want to get from this leadership council, and the overall answer was that we wanted a challenge and we wanted to use our leadership skills. So they presented the idea of a Dragon Day. So this Dragon Day will be May 21st from 9 to 12. We were split up into 4 groups. These 4 groups are the 5K run and the fun run, vendors and activities, communication, and the Name the Dragon event. So I'm part of the vendors group and the activities. My group, we're trying to bring in food vendors so the hungry people can eat. We're trying to get activities. We have stuff from the high school like Can Jam, Cornhole. We want kids to come. We want it to be like a great day for the community. We want every school to come, and we're hoping to have a great day. So Tyler's going to talk about the Name the Dragon.
Hello, I'm Tyler, and obviously I'm here on behalf of the Name the Dragon Committee, which is part of the Leadership Council. And we've been tasked with the opportunity to kind of come up with a name for the dragon mascot with the help of the community. And obviously an event like this kind of appeals towards the younger kids more. So a big part of our project has been to outreach to the various elementary schools, kind of tell them about our event, tell them about the day, and then tell them about the Name a Dragon event. And we've had a ton of classes responses. They've been able to kind of be together as a class, come up with 3 votes per class as to what they think the Name the Dragon should be. And then in the future, we're going to relay that off to the middle school. They're going to come up with their own classes responses. And then once we have all of the different submissions, we're going to relay that over to the high school, and they're going to come up with the finalized name that's been decided by them, but the names have been come up with from the different elementary and middle school. So, the people that are in this group, we've done a great job so far as the work we put in. We've done a very good job of getting the whole community together for this, and when we've gone to the various elementary schools, all the students have been very excited. They love the dragon mascot. They still think it's a real dragon inside of it. So yeah, a lot of people are really excited for this event, and obviously thank you to Mr. DeBold and Mr. Simo for kind of, like Mr. DeBold said, allowing us to be the pilot for this kind of event. It's a really cool opportunity, and Mr. DeBold said something in a meeting a couple of weeks ago that 10 years down the road, if we come back and we watch this Dragon Day event, if it keeps on happening year after year, hopefully it keeps building, and this leadership council keeps being better, and the wrinkles keep getting ironed out. So yeah, I'm really happy to be a part of this program, and the name of the Dragon Committee is it's a really cool part of the Dragon Day event.
So I'm a part of the communications group, and we've just been trying to get the word out about Dragon Day. So we made some posters, we put them up around the school, we've put it on Living in Cornwall, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, whatever. We're gonna try and get some flyers and posters sent out to all the schools, preferably a brighter color, because you know sometimes elementary school kids may not always give their parents the papers. But we are trying to get papers out to everyone's family. We're hoping that everyone comes out. I mean, it's going to be a great time. So my group has just been in charge of communications, but there's a lot of like working with the other groups and like communication and teamwork. Like our groups aren't by ourselves. Like we're all working together to come together to make this one day happen. And it's like coming so quick. Like it's coming up a lot quicker than we think. And we have to get ready for this. And we've been working together a lot lately, and it's been a lot of fun. Thank you.
So the last group, no one's here from that, but it's the 5K and the fun run. The event will start with a 5K in the morning and fun runs for the kids to do. So they've been working with Girls on the Run to make that happen. So we're very excited. We're hoping a lot of people sign up for that. And I think we're here. We just want a lot of support. We're hoping. I know myself and other people were really excited for this event. We think it could be a great thing, and it could continue on for many years. So we're hoping for your support, and thank you.
So definitely an exceptional group that we have the pleasure of working with every month, and the ideas that they generate themselves are just remarkable. So we couldn't be more proud of everything that they're a part of. We know the 21st is going to be an exceptional day for our community, not just for the students, but the entire community as a whole. So on behalf of our group, I want to thank the three of you for being here, Mr. DeBolt for all of his support as well, and all of you for your support in helping make this possible. Thank you.
Thank you. So I just wanted to make one more note that, you know, this is typically when you're starting something like a Student Leadership Council, you kind of dip your toe in the water, and I just can't applaud you all enough for, I mean, to plan a community event of this magnitude is no joke. So I'm getting goosebumps just trying to think about myself and me turning into a puddle, just trying to get a 5K together, but I mean, you all working together as a group to reach out to multiple stakeholders, to keep everything organized and communicate out using multiple platforms, and to bring this all together in the spirit of community is going to serve you well in your bright future. So thank you so much for all that you do, and thank you for your leadership, Mr. DeBolt and Mr. Simo. Appreciate it.
As a former board member once said, ditto. All right, so that brings us to the president's report. Really, I just want to take my slot. Obviously, this is an important night on the BOE calendar, the budget adoption vote. So I just want to take this opportunity to recognize everybody who's played an important role in this whole process. That's everyone at the building level, teachers, department heads, principals. It's such important work to identify the needs throughout the district with the laser focus on what's good for kids, filling any gaps that we might have, pushing our district forward. I express that appreciation not just as a board member, but also as a parent of children in the district, how much I appreciate those efforts, so thank you. Of course, a big thank you to our team here at the dais, our central administration team, for corralling all that feedback, creating a workable budget that reflects all those priorities, still makes the best use of every taxpayer dollar. I know how gargantuan of a task that is, this year perhaps even more so. And just the amount of work that you did to get us to where we are tonight is extraordinary year after year. So just because it happens every year doesn't mean it's not extraordinary. So thank you. And finally, to my fellow board members, this has been a particularly complex budget season. There have been a lot of different decisions to make. I think we've all brought our best focus, best preparation to get us to the point where we can vote on something that we all feel proud of. Obviously, there is one more discussion to have tonight, but I think that we have put ourselves in a position where we can, as the final stewards of this process that I just mentioned, we can kind of bring the ship home. So let's get to that. All right, so that brings us to the consent agenda. The consent agenda allows the Board of Education to make more effective use of its time by adopting a single motion to cover relatively routine matters. Is there any member of the board who would like to pull a particular item off the consent agenda? No? Okay, so it is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following consent agenda items as submitted by the Superintendent of Schools. That is items 2 through 11. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Against? Or opposed? Abstentions? Motion carried.
Brendan?
Yes.
I'd like to point out number 11. It's the, we've just approved the bid awards for Phase 1 on the district-wide project. So I think that's a great milestone. Just to let you know, guys, it's happening.
It's real. Thank you, Larry. All right, that brings us to new business, non-consent agenda items. First one is the BOCES budget resolution. Resolve, the Cornwall Central School District Board of Education does hereby cast its vote to approve the Orange Ulster BOCES 23-24 administrative budget. Take the rest per document. Do I have a motion? Second?
Second.
And discussion? No. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carried. Now, moving on to item number 2, that's the BOCES election resolution. Whereas there are 2 3-year term vacancies on the Board of Cooperative Educational Services to be filled at the annual election to be held April 20th, 2023. Take the rest per document. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second? Discussion? I will mention one of the candidates is sitting at the table, so keep that in mind.
Well, this Larry Berger, who has dedicated hours and hours and days and weeks of his volunteer time, I think we should all support Mr. Berger. And I know Martha Bogert, how long has she been on the BOCES board now? 20?
Long time.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think we should let both of you geezers, just go right ahead. Couldn't help it, Larry.
Thank you.
Second that.
All right, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carried. All right, that brings us to the 2023-24 budget adoption resolution. I just want to set the stage just put some structure on how we'll do this. So first, I just want to kind of cover where we've been and how we got to this point. So last week, we went through the entire district needs assessment, which represented all of the high priority items that have been identified by department heads, principals, and central administration, as I kind of referenced. Of that list, Terry and his team identified their highest priorities, which were labeled in blue, with the other items, though still high priority, not the highest, labeled in black. It was then our responsibility as board members to determine what combination of items we wanted to fund. The consensus view was that we would fund all the blue items from the district's highest priority list, plus one item from the rest, which was the additional 20 seats for UPK. Now, since then, the board has received emails advocating for one other position that was on that list. That was the full-time social worker position at the high school. So just to be clear, we will consider this position tonight. Before we do that and get into that discussion, I do want to make one quick point. First, I know that this budget season has been very fluid. It's more so in past years. We've had federal funds expiring. We've had more funding from foundation aid, thankfully, come in. But there's just been a lot of uncertainty, evolving needs, a whole bunch of positions that the board has had to consider funding, which is just more than is normally on the table, frankly, at this time of the year. So I totally get that the timeliness of, or the timelines of this budget have been different than almost any other year. I also completely support anyone who advocates on behalf of children, so thank you for doing that. And it's literally why every one of us are here as well. I would be remiss if I didn't point out, adding an item to the budget at the last minute is the exception, not the rule. There's a lot of information and data that goes into these decisions. It's just a lot for us to absorb, hours before a vote, especially when many of us, frankly, are working during the day and coming here right after. However, we do know how unique this budget season has been, and we will consider this social worker position. I just don't want this to be the standard moving forward, where last-minute suggestions change the budget. As a board, we're not really equipped to do that, so I just don't want to set that precedent that leads to poor decisions being made later on behalf of taxpayers and kids and et cetera. But again, that's just a caveat. We will take this up. With that said, I'm going to pass it over to Terry, who's actually going to give us a bit more background.
But before we get into the heart of tonight's discussion, I understand that New York State has not passed their budget yet, which would allocate lots of dollars to all school districts, this school district included. Can we talk about the process of how that lack of budget being passed before us as we do our things affect what we're going to be doing tonight? Can we just review that, please? Thanks.
Harvey, I'll pass that to you.
So we are no different than any other school district in the state. We're all faced with this situation. What I can say about the state aid that the governor has put forth in her proposal is that both houses are not in disagreement. They are in agreement with virtually everything that she has put forth. The reason for the budget not passing has nothing to do with the educational funding at this point in time. So to your question, what impact? We don't know the impact. No one does. Because, at the last minute, could there be a change in state aid, negative or positively? Yes. But we have, by law, we have to adopt our budget, and we have no choice but to base it on the best information that we have.
So thank you for clarifying that, Harvey. And so there is no requirement for us to have a state-passed budget in order for us to adopt a budget that has state funds coming to us.
Correct.
Is that right? Just to clarify.
Yep.
Correct.
Yes.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Larry. In the past, I'm not sure how many years, but this is not a unique situation with New York State. They've been late in budgets over a majority of the school year school budget process by, in some cases, like 90 days, more than that. So this isn't a unique situation, but it always seems to pull together at the time when they know they have to cough up money to the school districts.
Right.
So, it isn't unique. It's just very, very annoying and non-professional. Well, it is.
That's the headline. I said that's the headline. Unique, but not annoying, but not unique. All right, Terry, pass it to you.
So just wanted to provide some context into just a quick review for kind of my team's thinking and collaboration with our departments and principals. So just as a reminder, we were presented with the task of, or we felt the obligation to prioritize all of the needs. As a reminder, there were approximately 2.6 million in needs identified. And at the direction of the board, we were at 1.3 available. So thus, half of the needs were not going to be able to be supported in the budget. What we are also responsible for is looking at the district as a whole. So my job is to provide the board with as much information as possible to make informed decisions. So I know it's been said that, why would we take away from anyone? That it's the reality. We are taking away from the elementary schools because even though those extra 4 positions are subsumed in retirements at the elementary school, we are not 8 additional staff members supporting our students at the elementary level, so we are down 4 there. in addition to the hours and our SEL K-12 position will no longer be supported as well. She'll be subsumed, but it's the reality that we face with federal funds that were time-bound. I also want to remind everyone that I stood with Harvey over by those risers and actually was at the high school and said, you are going to be presented at the end of these funds with a very tough position. We are going to all fall in love with every single one of these individuals, and we're going to have a hard decision to make. So here we are. The additional context I just want to provide, because I want to make sure that I'm on record and my team is on record, we 1,000% support any additional SEL crisis support for our students, full stop. We fully support it. What we did was look across all 5 schools to look at our current state and how do we grow to what we want to achieve in the district. So that's why I want to provide the board as we make decisions moving forward. So at Willow, they have 1 social worker and no counselor. This is current state. COH, pre-federal funds, 1 social worker, no counselor. CES before federal funds was a full-time social worker. CCMS, 3 counselors and 1 social worker. And the high school, 5 counselors and 1 social worker. Okay, so that's our current state. Where I would love for us to grow is the expansion of counseling at the elementary level, because right now our social workers meet so many needs by mandate. So as IEPs are developed and things of that nature, they have mandates to cover our students' needs, but then that doesn't leave much opportunity to work with students in crisis, helping transition a kiddo new to the building and things of that nature. So I would love 3 additional support staff at the elementary level. Grow Willow by a counselor, grow COH by a counselor, grow CES by a counselor, which is in the existing budget. At the middle school, same number of students as the high school. We have a proposal to grow from 3 counselors to 4, in addition to their social worker. I would love to grow them by a counselor and a social worker. Same number of students to support the students. And then at the high school, grow by a social worker. So that's what you're hearing is the needs are far exceeding our budget, but I would love for 6 additional support staff for our students to really round out our entire district and really look at what's happening in our buildings. That's what we do each and every day, so that's what my team did. So what can we do within this existing budget? We have some support positions growing by a counselor at the elementary level. Same thing at the middle school to get them to 1 counselor per grade level, but we need so much more. So anyone that's listening, it's hard for me to hear why would you take away. It's really about what are the budgetary constraints and how do we gradually work towards our ultimate goals and desires for the district. So we want more. We want at every single school needs more. It's what can we, what do we believe our citizens and our constituents will be able to support moving forward, and then how do we develop a plan to really get all the supports needed at all 3 levels. So I just want to provide that context to make sure you have the numbers at each building, because if the other 4 buildings were represented, they would say the same thing. We need additional staff as well. So again, we 1,000% support additional mental health and those kinds of supports for our students. It's just a budget is a budget. It's hard work, so we have to figure out how to make those hard decisions.
I have a question for Harvey, and actually I don't have a question. I kind of know we've discussed it, obviously, but just the rollover, and just for the benefit of people, you know, in the audience, and they come here and they very valid requests, I would make the same. Our rollover budget, just to pay the same bills we all pay at home, what was that? What was the difference in the rollover? Because I'm not looking at it now.
And I don't have that with me.
Oh, okay. I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
That's okay.
What's an estimate?
But
What-
it was, so the budget is going up, it's going up almost $6 million, and we know that we added about 1.3, so about 4.7 million. So to that point, it's important to realize the times we're in with the inflationary periods, with a lot of things that are just skyrocketing, we were hit by it just as well, without adding anything. So,
No, exactly, and
Yeah.
I think it's important to mention that again to anybody that's listening, because it's like my own household. My bills have
Right.
doubled, my electric, and same thing here. So that we already started out behind by $1 million plus.
Right.
So, okay, thank you. I'm sorry, Harvey. You
That's okay.
have everything at your fingertips, but you still answered my question. See that?
So just to, thank you, Terry, for that. And so just to round us, maybe around the final turn here. So as a reminder, this is the sheet that we were looking at last week. These are all of the, the quote-unquote positions that were in black. And of this, we have already included the 20 seats for universal pre-K. That plus the blue is what we left off last time agreeing on. That's left us at a property tax levy increase of 0.94%. If we were to consider the social worker position, or include the social worker position, that's roughly $132,000 we would be adding in real dollars. The increase to the tax levy would go up to 1.2%. So that would be what you would see on the ballot, essentially.
Brennan, question
yeah.
on that? So I understand that if we apply that position cost to the tax rolls, it goes up. But there are other levers that we have at our control. And one of those is, the unassigned fund balance. It seems to me that we have pressing needs if we are allocating on a habitual basis, yearly basis, last 4 or 5 years, lots of money in different reserves, that at some point we need to start paying today's bills and not worrying about bills that may come due in the future. So
Oh, yeah,
I don't have a BlackBerry, but it sure
John,
sounds
check
like I
check
do.
the mic over to your left. That might be on.
Thank you.
No. Okay.
You squared away. But anyhow, so I guess my question is, there's many ways that we could find additional dollars to fund the needs that it sounds like Terry is supporting, saying we have needs, but we don't have the resources. But we do have resources if we allocate funds that we traditionally put aside that we don't spend on a yearly basis in addressing this. So I again, just trying to think outside the box, it doesn't have to be borne by the taxpayer. It could be borne by a reserve fund, maybe, project number 4 that we've allocated or established the set aside for, right? The capital reserve for, but we don't have to put money in it this year if we have pressing needs, especially if it affects the learning and the social, emotional aspect of our kids today, because they're not going to have a chance in 3 years, 5 years to get that right. They have the need now to get it right. And so I do believe that there is money beyond what that 1.3 million that originally was a placeholder, in my view. I didn't agree that we were limiting ourselves to 1.3 million. I thought that was just a placeholder to get an iterative process underway. So I just throw that out there as a question. If the answer is, sorry, we're not going to do that, I go, well, okay. But I think it's worthy of debate by the whole board.
So I appreciate that. I think if you fund it through the one of the reserves, you say use it to
We're not going to dip into a reserve,
unassigned fund balance.
right?
Then what are you going to do next year? You have to if you're gonna, I think if you're gonna fund it, you're funding a position. You're not throwing money at a project that's gonna be completed, and then you just throw the money into the reserve, back into that unassigned fund balance next year. This is money that's gonna now have to be baked into the budget moving forward. So at some point, you're gonna have to rip the Band-Aid off and ask the taxpayers to fund it, unless you're only gonna fund it for a year. So I don't think personally it is a wise move to. I think we're kind of playing hide the ball with the taxpayer if we do that. Like, I think at some point we're going to have to ask if this is something that they value, that they should fund. Otherwise, we're going to have to move the money back into that unassigned fund balance at some point, or we just don't. If we don't have a way to get that money back in, then we have to raise taxes next year. Like, at some point, we're going to have to do that, so we may as well just do it now. That's my view. And it's not, if this is a one position at $132,000, that to me is still within manageable realm. It's not like it dramatically changes the tax picture that we would do something like so creative, let's say. So I don't see the need to do it, especially since we're going to have to, if this is something we want to fund, we're going to have to ask the taxpayers to do it at some point.
And our strong recommendation is pick any of the hundreds of publications that are coming out right now. There will be a fiscal cliff facing this board and community next year. So we need to hold on to as much as we can for what that reality is. We've felt that as a community in 2019-20 budget year, where we really utilized the unassigned fund balance because of what was happening. But every single publication, including the one sent to the board with their own advisors, warns of the fiscal cliff that's going to be facing New York in next year. So I just want to be on record that we need our savings, because we are going to have a hard time holding on to everything that we have in a rollover in very, very tough financial times. So I just want to make sure that, our recommendation is the tax rate, just because we know what's coming in the next 2 years.
Yeah, Bass.
Just
Well, I'm sorry. I had already given Bass the signal.
Yeah, thanks, Brendan and Larry. I think, at least myself, I need some clarification as to kind of like the bottom of this slide here, more like a refresher of what we arrived at like last meeting, with the white board, right? There was some consensus.
So those are the blue.
Disagreements, right? I mean, blue versus black. Can you kind of sum it up? I mean, like at least refresh our memory.
Yeah. So I mentioned that we chose the consensus was all the blue plus the UPK 20 seats. That's what all this is. That's just an itemized version of that.
UPK 20 is the last one. What about all those FTEs?
That's all of it is blue, and the UPK was the black, but that's all of the positions together. That was the consensus.
All these were the blue.
Yeah.
Okay. So what? I don't know. We're gonna vote, right?
Yeah, we're voting tonight to approve.
I did have reservations last time, right? And there was no way to kind of revisit or rethink the whole process. It is what it is, I believe.
Well, I mean, I think we need to we have to, I think, focus the conversation at this point.
I'm just like taking the opportunity now to again maybe do some little debate. Especially we heard from the visitors the importance of rethinking or reconsidering the Calculus BC. I mean, that was one of the reservations I had last time. I specifically said that should have been added. Another item I thought should have been added, the monitors in the hallways, maybe in a reduced number, not the 5, I think I said 3. And remove one of those funded measures to add a English as a second language teacher. I didn't see that as a priority. So when you establish the numbers and everything, I think I came up with an extra only $25,000. It wasn't a big deal. So it was kind of almost even. And I haven't changed my mind since. I'm hoping that I can change some of the minds here on the table tonight.
Can I just speak to, there was a question at a previous board meeting of what's mandatory. So I will say that, the elimination of one of the special education teachers along with the E&L teachers, we have certain mandates that we must meet as a district. So asking to eliminate the E&L position is just a no-go.
It's mandated.
It's because of the needs of our students, and we tried to articulate that we're trying to put these positions in this year because of existing numbers that we have in our building. So at least the FTE special education teacher at the elementary level, along with the E&L teacher, along with the growing needs at the high school, those positions are essentially, in our team's opinion, untouchable.
ENL is English as a second language?
Yes.
And for new, maybe? Or
There's mandates.
no, what's the acronym standing for, ENL? I mean, I call it ES.
So it's English as a new
second
language. So
as a new language.
Yeah, and they've changed the
I mean,
acronym
I call it
throughout
as
the
a second
years, but
language. I
that's
mean,
what it is.
Usually
Yeah.
in universities, they call it this. It is mandated by the state.
So yeah, we're responsible for anyone that walks through our doors that enrolls in our district. We look at their special education needs. We're required to ask about second language and the like. And once we have that data, we're responsible for providing mandated hours and services accordingly.
Okay, so if we can't take it out, I think we're only left with additions. Again, let me repeat one more time. I still believe in the merit of funding calculus BC. And as we heard again tonight, I mean, we don't need to go hire certified teachers. Our teachers are capable of supporting it. And if they need certification, I mean, be it.
So just, thank you, Bess. I think my view on process at this point, I think all of these are valid arguments. I don't want to go backwards and have some of the same discussions that we had, hoping for a different result. I think that when it comes to some of the positions that you mentioned, it was part of the discussion last time. And I would say too, part of this process, well, regardless of where we end up in 5 minutes, 2 minutes maybe, if I'm being ambitious, the one thing I do know is that none of us are going to get exactly what we wanted. We started this, I am not getting exactly what I wanted. I was advocating for those extra positions at the elementary schools. I made my argument, it didn't carry the day, and I shrug and move on. I go with what the consensus is. And remember, when we go back to when I mentioned before about the process, this starts at the building level, the department heads, the principals, and it percolates up. We are the end of that process, and we have input in our position. But the way I view it, and I'm not asking everyone to view it this way, but the way I view it is when we vote on the budget, we are not just voting on whether we approve every line item in the budget. We, as a board that oversees the entire district, are approving that the right process was followed. We had our chance to put our imprints on it, and I think everybody is putting their imprints on it. You might not have all 5 fingers, but your imprints are on it. So that's the standard by which I judge it, because if we ask ourselves, oh, I'll only support it if it's 100% what I want, we would literally never approve anything. There's an old saying, it's sometimes accredited to Ronald Reagan, sometimes to Voltaire. Even Voltaire said it was somebody else, so who knows. But don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. And I think that is very valid in this case. I think we have a very good budget. It followed a very thorough process. And I just don't want to start applying the wrong metric to it at the last mile when it already has gone through a lot of those different checkpoints. So that's a long way of saying I think we have had a lot of those discussions, to get to the point of BLUE plus UPK. The reason that I thought it was valid to open the discussion specifically about the social worker is that it was actually included on that list. It was one of the items that we were considering last week, but we never really had a discussion about it. Now, maybe that tells you something implicitly. People didn't think strongly enough to advocate. I don't know. But I think it's not like we had that discussion as a group and we decided, no, it doesn't pass muster. I think it is worthwhile to have that discussion since we did not, and in the interest of looking under every stone. So what I would like to do is, since that seems to be the only issue that has lingering support, or is just an open question, I would like to take a straw poll of what everyone, where the support is on that. We don't have to do it this moment, but that's where I want to get to. I know Larry had something he wanted to say, and Jim, if you wanted to say something, absolutely. But just to put some structure to this, where we're going, that's where I think we should head. But I don't think that we should backtrack and reopen books that were closed last Monday. Larry.
Thank you. Since we met last week, I have had an opportunity to have a conversation with a number of families. They called me very upset that the social worker was not considered. They relayed stories about how the social worker's position has helped their child, and was concerned about next year. Their kids were helped through some very rough patches. And COVID, as was pointed out last week, really hasn't gone away. The bug may have gone, but I think the residual effects of COVID is going to be here for perhaps a whole generation, one way or another. I'm very concerned about our high school students. I'm concerned about all of them, but the high school students are in a place that their emotional needs, I believe, are not going to be met without this position. And the parents have asked me for privacy reasons not to mention their names. But after careful reflection, I really am in full support of this position.
Jim, did you want to
add? Thank you. I just had a follow-up for Terry. You talked about the potential for a fiscal cliff next year. Can we dig into that a little bit more? Or, what are we thinking long-term? Our goal as a board here is obviously to craft the year-to-year budget, but we need to be very cognizant of, are we putting ourselves into problems in the long term? So I guess just a little more on what you meant by that. This year we were sort of, the super simplistic view of it is we lost a lot of the federal funding, but it was backfilled by an increase in state funding. It appears that state funding is here to stay. I think the budget that we're passing here, one way or the other, is a fiscally responsible budget. Long-term thinking, I just would like to probe a little more on what you meant by that.
I'll leave it to the true experts to fill in what I missed, so Mr. Sotland over there. But every article that I've been reading is with the dwindling of federal funds, states are coming up with creative ways to fill that gap, when the true measure has not really been a significant decrease in federal funds, because we're all still enhancing our school buildings with federal money, period. Look at all the positions that are currently in Cornwall funded by our federal money, and that is not part of our rollover budget. So that's what I really need everyone to understand, that that's a different fund. So when we talk about rollover, it's rollover sans all the federal funded positions. That is not part of the rollover. So we're all benefiting from that federal funds, which absolutely ends this year. We will not have the benefit of filling gaps and things of that nature with additional federal funds. It's all going to come down to that state money. Huge debate of, yes, any politician will be able to say we'll maintain levels and things of that nature, but I've also seen them walk that back. Due to increasing costs and lack of X, Y, or Z, here's the impact on schools and the like. So that's What I read in the NYSBA clip that you all got was really a $7 billion deficit that we're facing dollars to dollars from this year to next year in the state of New York. How they come up with that, I want them to answer that question, but $7 billion is no small change, so you can promise foundation aid, you can promise maintain levels, all you want, but I just know how checking accounts work. So Harvey, I don't know if your folks have any, but we're just, my organization is saying prepare for the fiscal cliff that will be 24, 25 for our planning.
Yeah, so I echo everything Terry said. The way that if they have this gap, whether it's $6 million, $7 million, billion, if they can't fill it, what they've done in the past, and it wasn't that long ago, for instance, something called the gap elimination adjustment. The state had a gap. The way that they filled it was they gave us our aid runs, okay? So we get 25 million, say, but then they took a deduct to every school district, okay? So to your point, we're in a good place state aid-wise, yes, unless they do a deduct to fill their gap. And that's what we're all concerned about, because they've done it multiple times in the past.
One other thing, as far as, we all know promises by the state, Jim, they change. Just as a reminder to everybody that's a lot younger, the lottery, the New York State Lottery was supposed to fund education. What do we see from that? So that was a promise. That was a big promise. The New York State Lottery was going to take care of everything. Well, so that's why, as far as unassigned fund balance, it's something that is very important. I've witnessed when it wasn't a backup and it wasn't there, and the taxpayers got hit all at once, and it's a frightening place to be. But and as far as this position, I do support it. In fact, I have to tell you the truth. When I read that letter tonight that we received, I actually sat back and I thought to myself, how did I miss that? I know that we originally, several of us just went with the other parcel that I changed my mind at that point and went with this one, but I never looked one-to-one. And I felt almost ashamed when I was looking at it. It personally bothered me because Margaret said it best. We can do, no matter what we do in the classroom, as long as we don't have mentally healthy children ready to learn, we're not doing anything. And I thought about that. So as far as this position, I'm very concerned with our children, all of our children, right from, I guess, from 3 and up that have been part of this whole, as my friend would have said, mishigai. I think the counselor is very important, and I do think we should add it. And I realize it's not the norm, nor should it be, but in this case, a lot of things aren't normal anymore. That's my feeling.
Got it. Thank you, Teresa. Yeah, Richard.
So thank you. Oh, is this working? Okay. So I want to start by echoing what I think Larry and Teresa and everybody here probably feels about the social worker, that position. I think it's very important. Listen, federal funds, they're going away at the end of the year, but the effects that COVID had on our students, it's not going to go away at June 30th of 2023. It's not going to go away. And I feel that my responsibility here as a board member is to look out for everyone, but especially the students. And I feel very confident sitting as a board member, presenting a budget to the taxpayers with social work, including the social worker in this proposal. I feel very confident presenting this to the taxpayers. And at the last meeting, I was a big advocate, along with some of the board members, for the extra positions in the elementary school levels. I'm still in favor of that. And I'm confident that we could present that to the taxpayers, and I'll live or die on that hill. I think people are going to understand that our students still have needs. They're still recovering from COVID, if you want to call it learning loss. I just think that people realize that we need to continue to support our students. And yeah, I don't think you can put a dollar amount on our students' health, support, and education. That's just my take as a board member. So, thank you.
All right. I think we are, yeah, Margaret, go ahead, go for it.
You know, in the discussion in the letter that we received and in the discussion of the high school social worker specifically, you know, what we have here contains SEL support for each of the schools, you know, in various ways, whether it's through a special ed teacher or the specific counselors. I kind of feel like at the high school level, the younger students, you know, Terry, obviously we'd all like to have more counselors at the elementary level as well, but we have those kids in our community a little bit longer. I feel like the high school kids, to have one more social worker at the high school level will give the kids the support they need as they're just about to leave the community that is COH. You know, it's additional support for the kids at you know, a later age, but who will be soon going out on their own and not have the support of their CCSD community. So with that, I'm in favor of adding the high school social worker as well.
Got it. I think most of the straws have been
Yeah, so I'll
pulled,
jump
but
in.
go ahead there, Louis.
This is the unofficial official straw poll. It sounded like everywhere.
Yeah,
we
let's
ended up going around anyway.
How many times can we do it? Yeah, let's see.
Yeah, so a couple things. Personally, you know, I threw that up on the board last time. That was my.
I didn't want to put you on the spot. That was you that put it
That
out,
was-
so that was it.
I mean, irrelevant. But I think it's not that I was the Swami with the crystal ball. It's what resonated with me. So, yeah, so a couple things are in place here. The backstory is, I am not in support or pleased at the way this kind of came about at such a last notice. I mean, there's been a few days since our last meeting, and it could have been delivered with a little more tact, I think. But it's here, and it's valuable, and I think everybody has kind of spoken their piece and said it. I am in support of adding the social worker as well as the UPK. I think it puts us below our 9-year average. When in one of Harvey's budget presentations, he has the averages of our tax increase. It's below our average by some distance, by some margin, and it's below our lowest increase that we've had in the last 9 years. So while I think it is a difficult time economically for a lot of folks out there, it's a difficult time emotionally for a lot of students in here. And I don't think it's unreasonable to try and support that with the tax implication that's going to be felt.
Sure. Yep. John?
Hey, thanks, Brendan. So, yeah, I think I asked the question at the last meeting about the social worker. I think the response was, we can make it work. And what I'm hearing now is that we've had a change of heart, and that's a good thing. And as much as I admire and desire to have a process to get us to an endpoint, I believe that process is best served when there is a lot of critical thinking, as well as a good amount of discussion that ensues. And I never, as a personal belief, make a decision the night of information being provided. I always at least sleep on it one night, 2 nights, sometimes a week, because I'm not that smart. I'm not that guy who can immediately size something up and say, oh, that's what we should do. I need to think about things from all different angles. And so I heard Lewis talk about he didn't like the process of how it came about. Any information and any feedback, I think, is quality information and feedback. I understand it would be preferable to have that going in. And I'll use a case in point. At the last meeting, we had a discussion about the Calculus BC. That came up tonight and last meeting. And it was framed in a way that we needed a new FTE in order for that class to happen. That was framed. After that meeting, or during the meeting, after that part of the discussion was over, I understand we had a teacher step up and say that he could do that class. That's what they call in the trade subsequent information. I wonder how the process worked where that information wasn't percolated up to the top. And so I think we should recognize our own limitations within a process and take advantage of when the information, those pearls of information that we, the difference between success and failure, life and death, those types of things, when they finally get to us, for us to take the right action. I'm not going to begrudge anybody in terms of when they get the information, as long as it's before a decision is made. Once a decision is made, it's obviously too late. But prior to that, I think it's part of the process, and I'll never begrudge anyone for doing it. And my hat's off to those ladies who actually put that letter together. And like I think the majority of what I've heard already, I support it because I understand the stuff that goes on at the high school, and the support that we can provide, I think, will live in the lives of these kids for a long, long time. So that type of legacy is something that I support.
So I just want to make sure that we're being clear on, one, my team didn't have a change of heart. We supported the social worker from the start. That's why it was in our initial needs. When we say that we could make it work, just like we're going to make it work at Willow with just one social worker and no counselor, just like we're going to make it work at COH with one social worker and no counselor, just like we've done in the past. So again, we had to prioritize the needs with all of the information that we live with each and every day. I have to put a word of caution out here just as a parent myself. We could have easily had 5 parents from CES speak before the board today to say, I'm advocating for my child's school. We could have easily had 5 parents from CCMS saying, I looked at what's happening in my child's school and we need monitors. So I just caution the board to make sure that you're taking all information in and not just what is being presented at the time, because it's just really hard to make those decisions based on who's speaking when. When we tell you that we've done investigation into BC Calculus, if you don't trust us, you have to say that publicly and let my team know. But we did research it with Mr. Piazza and Mr. DeBold to figure out what would happen when you engage in a process that's not aligned to the process that we've engaged in for over a decade. That looks like our students, when that presentation was made, were already past course selection. So when new courses get asked for at the high school, it's an early process so that we can get before the students to gauge interest. Based on how they sign up, we can make decisions of who's in which section. So any teacher can come up and say they could do something, but we follow the process that's been established, which is we work with our principal and our counselor who's responsible for scheduling to see if it can be. So I just really want to make sure that we understand that there's lots of voices not heard tonight. There's a lot of voices at home who would be advocating for different positions, and we have to keep that top of mind. We absolutely have to. It's impossible to do our work if we're just basing it on who's in front of us when we have 3,000 students and families to care for.
Brendan, just, hey, Terry, when I said change of heart, I wasn't referring to you and your team. I was talking about our board.
Yeah, Brandon, going back to this not renewing or the elimination of the social worker at the high school, kind of echoing what John mentioned, the process, right? I mean, we should follow process. I think we have to admit that last week when we debated every single measure, add, remove, we can, we can't, exceeding the budget, it was right in front of us. Nobody mentioned anything about it. I see the change of heart, as John is mentioning, around the table here tonight on the board member, not Terry, because they received a letter today from a concerned constituent, I would say. I received the letter. When emails pop on my email, boom, I know I got an email. It doesn't mean I'm going to read it, right? I didn't read it at 5. The email arrived around 12:37, right? At 5:42, I emailed the board. I said, Brandon, I saw the letter in my email, but haven't had a chance to read it. It looked too long. I'm not sure I can discuss anything about it tonight. I'm still having dinner now. That was 5:42. 6 o'clock, I came to the executive session. I'm not ready to discuss it. Just now to vote on it and add it, to me, that's not a process. We shouldn't do that. Something to consider, duly so, next year, but now it's too much to ask.
So I respect that. I would just add, it has been on our needs assessment list since February 27th when it was first put before us. So, we have had the information. I think the question, and this is why I decided that, it was worth having this open discussion about it, is it's not that we had a discussion about it and it failed. It's not that really new information has come to light. If it was like, oh, by the way, we just realized it's not going to cost what we thought, or there was some new element to it that we had to consider, then I would probably be more firmly behind what you just said. But since it is the same proposition that has been in front of us for almost 2 months now, it just hadn't really gotten an airing on the board because there was so much. I know what you're saying. I truly understand your point.
Nobody argued to add it last week.
What's that? No, I know. We could have. You're absolutely right. We just didn't. It never really got around to that point. Now, look, I want to keep my word of where I said we were going. I think that we are ready to take a straw poll on this issue. So, Richard, since you were about to speak, do you want to just give us, we'll go around, and it's really, I think we've all had our say on it, so I would just say it's a yes or no. This is just for the social worker at the high school position.
Okay.
And then we would, depending on the result of that, we would amend or have Harvey make a note to amend the budget proposal, and then we will vote on that.
So this is just yes or no? I can't.
Well, I mean, you had
I can't add anything?
Well,
Or-
I mean, I assume that there's nothing to say since you already voiced
Right.
your opinion on it.
Well, just in response to Bass, and I get it, and I'll kind of I'll apologize. I think we didn't discuss it, and I'll take my bad. I mean, we were focused on other things that night. We have a lot of needs. I think a couple of us mentioned tonight that this is probably the most difficult budget discussion, budget process that a lot of people on this board have went through. But after doing further research, looking into it, I'm in favor of this position. So yes, and since we didn't talk about it last meeting, I apologize. I do. So I'm in favor of the social worker position.
And so the straw poll begins.
Yes.
Richard is a yes.
Yes.
Larry?
Yes.
Lewis?
I am a yes.
I'm a yes. Margaret?
I'm a yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Pass.
Abstain.
And John?
Yes.
All right, so that's 8, 0, and 1. Okay, so let's talk about the implications of that. So that would be, again, a 1.2% tax levy increase that we are adding 132,000 real dollars to the budget proposition. So Harvey, when we go into this, I'm going to leave the numbers blank, just because they will have to be adjusted. We've been through this exercise before, I know. Can you just walk me through just so I'm 100% sure, when we vote tonight, we don't have to take a readoption vote once the actual numbers are finalized and presented, right? We can just take the binding vote tonight.
That's correct. I can give you the number with that
Oh,
position
great.
in there.
Let's do that now.
Okay, so with that position in there, in the resolution, it speaks toward what the proposed budget is. That new number would be $87,242,687.
Got it? And that's the only number I need for this purpose.
Correct.
Yeah, okay. Okay, look, and as I mentioned before, I think we have had it out on every other issue. I think we've have shaken every branch, and we are now at a point where we can vote on this budget. This is, yes, Harvey.
The only other item that has to be decided on is how we do fund it.
So, right. So the options generally are through the tax levy, which would be a 1.2% increase,
Correct.
or pulling from reserves.
Or
It's unassigned, I keep using those terms interchangeably. Unassigned fund balance, sorry. Right, so I think I am in strong favor of just adding it to the tax levy. This is a position we are funding over the long term. This is not a one-time expense. And for all of the other reasons that Terry brought up about, potential fiscal cliffs, we're going to need that money. And, just because we don't use something every year doesn't mean it's wise to bet that we won't use it next year. So that's my position on that. I don't know, I know, John, you mentioned a possible alternate. I mean, I think another trip around very quickly is what probably the best way to handle this. So again, our two options are 1.2%, but basically tax levy or unassigned fund balance.
We would be comparing that to,
This is how we're gonna pay for it. So in the tax levy, we're adding this to the tax levy so that we're raising the taxes now 1.2% as opposed to 0.94. Or option B, we're keeping it at 0.94. We're just funding it for this year, right? Still open how it would be funded next year through the unassigned fund balance.
so this is just the social worker position? We're not
Yes.
talking about the 4 teachers for the elementary school?
Well, we
So
can't,
that's
we
off the
can't,
table?
we couldn't afford that now.
Okay.
Yeah.
That
we
would be
would've-
over the cap?
Yeah,
Okay. And we couldn't go over the cap?
that's the cap. We would have to get a
So,
60%, an
60%?
overwhelming majority from the public.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
Sorry. I wanted to
Yeah,
confirm.
probably
Okay.
not gonna happen.
So social worker position to me is a long-term expense, so I would go out tax levy. That's just my take
Yep.
on it.
Very good. Larry?
Okay, I have lived through a number of times when the state has reneged on a promise, and I think we need our fund balance, so tax levy.
Yep.
Tax levy.
Tax levy. Margaret?
Tax levy.
Teresa?
Taxpayers, we're all paying it anyway, one way or the other. So, yeah, but I'd rather do the levy and have a position that's there, and we know next year, and we roll it in.
Yep. Jim?
Levy.
Bass?
Abstain, since I abstained already.
Okay. John?
Yeah, unassigned fund balance. Teresa's right, taxpayer will pay. I think they already have. I believe this year we're going to have excess funds. Instead of putting them in reserves, I believe we should start playing for the needs that we have. I understand this concern about fiscal cliff. It's raining. It's raining here. It's not going to be raining. The word about the storm for years to come, it's raining now. This position, we should do it that way. We could do it with taxpayer money in subsequent years. I'm for unassigned fund balance.
Okay, so that was 7 for tax levy, 1 fund balance, and then 1 abstain. So tax levy carries that. Okay, I think we are ready for our vote. Resolved upon the recommendation, sorry.
I didn't want to cut you off, but I have a question.
Okay.
At the last meeting, we talked about itemized budget.
I'm not sure what you're referring to. What do you mean?
At the last meeting, I asked for an itemized listing of the budget. I was told we're going to get that tonight,
It's on the website.
so we're not going to go through it tonight?
Well, typically the board doesn't go through it in line by line, but has been on the website to go over it individually and bring up any comments.
Okay, all right. Can we, I guess, do that comment period then now?
Well, I mean,
Before
it's,
we're going to,
well,
right?
I'm not sure what you want to comment on. I mean, you want to go through every line of the budget?
No, I don't. You know, at the last meeting, I was admonished for voting on a budget that I didn't know included cutting teachers. And so that was a very personal thing for me. I want to make sure when I vote on something, I understand what I'm voting on and the allocation of dollars associated with that. So that's why I requested the itemized budget. I'm sorry? Can you put your mic on?
For next year's budget, I'm just not sure.
Yes,
it's
next
not
year's
in my
budget. That's right.
Well, John, I would just add, I mean, this has not been standard practice to sit at the last meeting right before we vote and go through every
I
line of the
understand,
budget.
but I asked for it last meeting. I was told we're going to get it, right?
Right, and I said it would be put up on the website.
And so that should then, in my view, create an opportunity to ask questions about that before you make a vote on the overall budget. Now, if you want to take a vote to see who agrees with me and lets me ask this question or not, that's fine, but.
Do you have a look? Here's what I'm.
It's all about process, right?
Yeah, and to that point, I mean, I don't think it's good process that we all sit here, pull up the website, and I don't know, sit here for an hour and read the budget until we have questions. I don't think that's an efficient way of doing things. As Harvey said, it's been on the website. If you have specific questions, then you have more than the opportunity to answer them. And we've been having an open discussion here. If it was something that we used to do and it was the full expectation that we would do it and we just, changed to the last second,
Right.
I think that would have some credence, but we've literally never done that before. You have access to the document. It's been on the website. I mean, if you have questions,
I do.
you're free to answer, then ask them.
And that was my point before you get to the resolution, to see if we have an opportunity to ask those questions. So we do have that
I mean, John,
opportunity now?
if you have questions, you're speaking now.
Okay, great, thank you. So as part of last year's budget, as I understand it, there was professional development funds that were allocated. And during the budget process, as it came from the FOIL information that Terry was kind enough to provide the board after I requested it, it appears that conversations with an independent contractor was occurring during the budget season. And subsequent to that, the contractor was engaged, and that contractor provided services for the district through CIP this year, as I understand it. I'm getting a lot of quizzical looks. Anything I said is
just
not...
don't see what it
I'm
has to
I'm
do
waiting
with
to see
the
where's
budget vote.
the question, what the question has to
But
do
do
with
I
the
have the
budget.
facts right now?
I have no idea. I mean, I don't
No?
really know what you're talking about.
No? Okay. So what I'm talking about is the CIP sessions that the teachers went through, that we've had number of concerned parents and stakeholders of the public make visits to our board meetings early on in the fall, voicing their objections to an activist that was brought in, unbeknownst to us. But my question is that going to be funded through this budget this year? Is that independent contractor coming back for next year? That's my question.
We don't make decisions before the board, we don't make finalized decisions before the board approves the budget, so we're unprepared to answer that.
Is it in the budget? And obviously, allocation of dollars to a certain activity is in the budget, because we have about $87 million worth of it. So is it or is it not in the budget?
I'm telling you again, it's to be determined. It's professional development, and professional development can look 8,000 different ways next year. My team has not made those detailed decisions at this time.
So we have funds that have been earmarked for that activity.
For professional development overall.
Right, for professional development, got it. And so whether that independent contractor comes back or not has not been determined.
Correct.
Will the board have an opportunity?
That has nothing to do with this budget vote. My team's not going to answer that tonight.
So the board will not have an opportunity? I'm not asking for what the decision is.
I'm just saying it's
So,
not.
so
it has
John,
nothing
let
to
me
do
let me
with
just
tonight's budget.
let me just pull back, okay? So I'll just remind everybody what we're doing here. We are taking a vote as a Board of Education on funding an $87 million operating budget for our entire school district. What you're talking about is a $10,000 line item. And you think that at this point, that is the most important thing that we need to focus on? I personally do not. I think I allowed you had pressing questions. Just looking at the math, that does not seem to me like a pressing question. I don't think that we should create this false sense in our head now that whether we support this budget that has gone through the entire organism of this organization from the ground up, this is what has been produced. These positions, the impact these would have on children, we're now going to roll the dice up against the wall, and whether you agree with the $10,000 line item, I cannot allow that to happen. We need to vote on this budget without getting sidetracked by these stunts.
It's not a stunt.
It seems
This is
like
serious
it's-
business.
Okay, then
Because
let me
at
just
the
remind
end
you,
of the
it is
day,
a
Brendan,
$10,000
this board
line item
has- it is
that
out in
Terry
the-
has explained to you has not even been allocated yet. So that's the end
It's
of the road there.
earmarked. Whether-
John,
whether-
I'm not going down the road earmarked. Like, please, it's a $10,000 line item. We have so much more important things that we need to vote on that has a direct impact on every classroom in this school district. That's where I think we should be focused.
Look, I don't believe there's anything more important than learning loss.
Okay,
and
now we're
addressing
hopping from
learning
one
loss.
thing. That's not even the same thing you were just talking about.
Professional development is the key to addressing learning loss.
Okay.
This organization has professional development teams that are supposed to meet and then come to the board and make recommendations by April 1st on changes to the professional learning plan.
Okay, so that has nothing to do with the budget. I think
It
we are
does,
just okay.
because
In your mind, it does.
Is the
and
money
fine? In your mind, it does,
sufficient to
John.
address?
I think in your mind it does, and that's fine. I don't care to dissuade
In
you.
your
of
mind,
own-
obviously, it doesn't.
That's fine. Yeah, I agree with
But
that.
if we're
You're
going to
not-
spend money on an activist as opposed to spending money addressing learning loss, it is a waste of taxpayer money, in my view.
John, in the most generous way I can describe this comment is this is way too late. If this is really the most important thing for you, the fact that you brought it up when I was 3 words into reading the resolution to vote on the budget, you talk about process, I think you should maybe revisit your own. It's kind of late to be doing this.
Okay, you can chastise me all you want.
I'm not
Brendan.
chastising
Yes,
you, John.
are.
We need to vote on this.
I asked for itemized listing. It came up. We weren't going to address it. I thought we were. And before you moved on, I wanted it discussed.
Understood, and I gave you the floor.
But you just then chastised me
Because
for interrupting
the
you.
first question is about a $10,000 line item when we're talking about an $87 million operating budget. I mean, it doesn't seem like the whole stop the presses kind of moment.
It has everything to do with the process.
Okay.
And that process is to fix learning loss and
Okay.
how those monies are allocated.
Understood. We're taking the vote. Resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education, that Board of Education does hereby approve of the budget for the 2023-24 school year in the amount of $87,242,687 for the placement on the ballot at the annual budget vote to be held on Tuesday, May 16th, 2023. Take the rest per document. We'll go around, and this is just yay, nay, or abstain. Richard?
So I can't add anything else?
No, we're voting.
Okay. Didn't have it, okay. Yay.
Larry?
I'm in favor.
Yay.
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 Yay. Abstain.
John?
No.
Motion carried. All right, that brings us to the property tax report card resolution. This contains information, Harvey, that would need to be adjusted as well. I assume I can just, I'll just read the recommended action, the resolution, and then just, I will note that it has been.
It has.
Or it has.
Yep, I have a copy here, should anybody wish to see it.
Always prepared, thank you. It resolved upon the, well, let me open it first. Do you want, you want to look at it, is that what you're saying? Yeah, okay. While we're doing that, I'll open it and then we can talk about it in discussion. Resolved upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools that Board of Education does hereby approve the Cornwall Central School District 2023-24 property tax report card as required per New York State Education Department regulations. Do I have a motion? Second?
Second.
And discussion.
I'd just like 45, 60 seconds to take a look at it.
Yeah, you gave me, oh, that's yours, that's right. So just some of the, if you're looking at the old one, some of the things that are changed, obviously that first, under column B, the first item, that's the new number. The percentage change has been updated from 695, everything downhill. The 1.20 is changed. And there are obviously some downhill effects of all those numbers. But at a, yeah, I mean, it's looking accurate to me.
Looks right to me, just
Yep, no, good call,
like
Jim.
to look at it before I say.
100%.
Vote on it.
Yep. Yeah, it's easier to say, well, make the changes, but when you have the changes in hand, you have to make sure that they're correct. Okay, we can do, I think, a straight vote on this. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carried. All right, that brings us to our second recognition of visitors. Anyone wishing to speak can step forward to the microphone. You have 3 minutes. Just identify yourself. And again, if you would like to get a direct response, you can leave your contact information at the dais.
Hello, it's me again. April McDowell, school counselor at Cornwall Central High School and co-department chair of the Student Services Department. I just wanted to take a moment to say thank you so much for hearing us out at this late time. It was never our intent to surprise or throw you off guard or cause you more time and energy into this at this last moment at this day. We only just found out about this removal of the position last week. And so to your point, Mr. Argenio, we do need time ourselves to organize, to discuss, to kind of come up with a responsible and professional way to address what we feel are our needs. We do not in any way, shape, or form disregard some of the things at the other levels at all. It's important for kids at every level to have the support that they need, both academic, social, emotional as well. So I just wanted to, again, take this time to publicly thank you all for the time, the consideration, not only in reading the letter of support, but also really taking the time to debate that today. And so while not everybody has to agree, we appreciate that the majority of you did. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. McDowell. Anybody else? All right, well, that brings us to board comment. So, Richard, I've started with you all night. Take it away.
Start with me again, okay?
Yep.
So as always, I'm going to thank Colton for being here tonight, doing double the work, presenting to us what's been going on in the schools. So we appreciate it. I'm sure I'm speaking for everybody, but thank you. I've been told that this budget process has been very difficult compared to other years. As a new board member, what do I know? But I feel confident in what we've approved. Now, would I want more? Yes. I mean, I made that pretty clear. I was in favor of the 4 positions in the elementary school, and I won't I won't back down from that, but I'm in favor of all the needs that we've assessed. I'm in favor of adding the extra 20 seats for UPK, and I'm totally in favor of the social worker position. And I'm glad that the rest of the board, or majority of the board, agreed with that. I know, John, you brought up a point at the end there. You made a comment about professional development, and I understand it. You know, I think moving forward, the board should be made more aware of who's being put up to kind of lead this professional development effort. I'm totally in agreement with that. And studying to become a teacher, I understand how important professional development is. I mean, teachers rely on that. And there's a lot of evolving and changing things that are going on in the education world, especially after COVID, with social emotional needs, technology, all that. And I think moving forward, we need to be made aware of what we're focusing our funds on. And $10,000, comparing it to an $87 million budget, you know, that's like pocket change. But when you talk to taxpayers, they're going to tell you, well, you know, that's a good amount of money. So I think moving forward, we need to be made aware of that. And listen, I have nothing against, and actually I'm in favor of it, promoting and teaching these difficult issues. You know, we have social, emotional, LGBTQ. I'm all in favor of that. I think we have a lot of students that fall in that category. I think we have to deal with those. You know, we have to help them as much as we can and help our teachers understand those topics. But I think we all have to work together in that effort, and we have to all agree on hiring somebody that actually can lead that effort and has the qualifications to do that. And not saying that, you know, what we have now isn't the case, but I think those are all very important topics that we have to definitely take on and deal with for our students, because especially coming out of COVID, there's so many situations where, you know, mental health and all that, it's just so important to us, and I would think that every board member cares about it. We have to really take initiative to deal with that, and make sure that our teachers are able to deal with that as well. So with that, I want to thank everyone who came out tonight, who advocated for their causes, and see you at the next meeting. Thank you.
Thanks, Richard and Larry.
First of all, I want to say that this Name the Dragon is a great idea. I think it focuses really on why we're here. Student involvement. This leadership council was a phenomenal idea, and that I can see it growing over the years. I think it's just so great. Talking about our student reps, I do miss them not being here at the end of the meeting for their comments. I found them very insightful last year, and I think maybe we ought to think about that you know, for next year. Now that we have approved the budget, I hope that we as a board can support it. Thank you.
Margaret?
I was writing notes. I agree with Larry 100%. The Student Leadership Council, phenomenal program, phenomenal idea. Just that, you know, as a high school kid, me to stand up in front of a board meeting, there's no way I would have gotten 2 words out. And yet these kids were composed, able to talk about the program. I loved how they talked about how they work together and how a lot of their stuff that they do is independent. That's what you want. That's what you want. Everybody to be able to experience in a school setting, that it's not just sit down at your desk, we're going to go over our lessons today. You know, they have the opportunity to do these things on their own, with guidance, make mistakes, learn that mistakes are not a bad thing. It's a good thing. You learn more when you make mistakes. Love it. Love it. And the other thing I just wanted to do was promote the 100th anniversary of COH, which is happening on May 6th. I wanted to point out the interesting thing about this logo that was created, which you'll see on all over the place, was actually not created by a student. It was created by one of the Orange County Sheriff's deputies who's at COH. So he is a Cricut master. He does all these amazing projects, and they asked him to please come up with the logo, and he did. So it's on everything. I wanted to give a shout out to Nolan, Orange County Sheriff's Deputy Nolan Padilla, for doing that, because amazing. And then I have a wall hanging for our central office if you guys want to put it up. So that's all I have to say.
Thanks, Margaret. Teresa?
Whatever, but all of us, I'm sure, would have loved to included everything that was on those pages. It's not a matter of I was in favor, I wasn't in favor. It was making tough choices. That's all it was. I'm in favor of all of it. I'd like to add more. I could think of a few more things we could do in the music and art departments, but we can't. So as far as that, yes, the whole package would have been great if we could approve it. But that's not what we're here for. That it's tough decisions. That's why everybody loves a school board member. So that's the first thing. As far as I looked it up, because I'm not talking about any one specific person or job, but suddenly the word activism or activist has become a dirty word. We are. I looked it up, every one of us. We're looking to change. We're looking for change, or we wouldn't be sitting here. So before I hear that again, keep in mind that it's like anything. If you feel that a person is not saying what you want, that's one thing. If it's not what you believe in. But, and it's all of us. I'm not saying you, Rich, I'm just saying all of us, because you hear it everywhere. Activism today has got this negative connotation, and it really isn't. I'm here to make a change. I guess I could be one of those white panthers, you know, like just kind of making changes everywhere. But I want to leave, I mean, I think it's really important that a decision, and I think it's important to say it now, because maybe I'll be here next year or maybe I won't, but decisions that are made about people that are going to sit in front of our teachers, because that's exactly who these people are. They're not sitting in front of our children. This is not the discussions happening with any of our kids. These are people coming from the outside that are bringing different ideas. That I know people will, no one likes, everybody doesn't like change, and there's always going to be people that are uncomfortable, including myself. But I don't think it's up to a Board of Education to determine who those people are going to be, because we're just not trained. I certainly am not. I think Megan and her team and the cabinet and the teachers and the staff, they're the people that determine that kind of things. And I understand that this feedback that came in, there was positive and there was negative. I don't think we dwelled as much on the positive, but I definitely think it did create conversation. Talk about creating conversation. So again, I just want to go back to that about activists. I hope we have activists that come here and talk to our teachers, and our teachers talk to them, because that creates change. And God knows this world is changing, and our kids are being subjected to a lot of stuff that I'm terrified of. I did want to mention the Multicultural Night, which was really cool. I took my Tums with me just in case, because I'm a very bland eater. I didn't need them, but it was very, very well attended, and I'm thankful for that. And I'm thankful for people and young kids that come up and think of programs that don't even have a dollar cost. What it is about putting thoughts together and kids together and our staff working with them. And I think that's all really positive stuff, and I'd like us to leave the meeting, all of us tonight, thinking about all this really positive stuff. And I thank everyone here, because I know every person at this table only cared about our school district, our kids, our staff, and what was good for them. And all of us had different ideas, but that's what we did. So that's all.
Thanks, Teresa. Jim?
Thank you, Brendan. Just so a few thank yous. Thank you, as always, to Colton. Thank you, as always, to everybody who comes and gives us public comments. I think I add it's a deeply disappointing experience, but I think we've improved it a lot this year. So it's less deeply disappointing. The Leadership Council, I think Margaret and Larry really nailed it. I was really blown away at the comfort and composure that they had speaking in front of us. I don't think I would have done that at 17, 18, 16 years old, whatever it may be. And I will just add to your point that they are doing a good job of publicizing Dragon Day, because I went to put on my calendar on the computer and it already popped up. My wife had already entered it, so the word is getting out, so that whoever's doing that part of it is doing their job. Good luck to all of the Board of Ed candidates. We had someone came up and said they were doing that. We've got a couple at the dais here and a couple out in the audience, so everybody sitting up here, of course, knows how nerve-wracking that process could be. So good luck to everybody going through that process this year. And lastly, just on the budget, last time we gave public comments a couple meetings ago, I said, balance was really my word. It had come up a lot in that meeting. And it's really proved to be true, and it was difficult to find that balance this year. Brendan, I think you mentioned it earlier in the meeting, not everybody gets everything they want. We all have to come together, the 9 of us, in conjunction with the administration, to put forth to the community what we feel that best balance is. Obviously, as soon as Margaret wins the lottery and funds all of these, we'll be good. But until that point, it's just always that difficult balance of we want to provide everything we can for the children and students who are, what they need now, as well as many of them will be the future leaders of this community. But we also need to respect the fact that we do not have an unlimited fund. So I think we found that balance. I'm happy with where we ended up, and I hope that the community comes out and supports that on May 8th, 16th? 16th. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Bass.
Thanks, Brandon. I have 4 points to make. First one is, I know I'm by nature I have this curiosity, investigative curiosity, if you want. This document showing the numbers, the 87,242,000, that does include the social work in high school, was printed at 4:02 p.m., which means that was some discussions done before we come and discuss it here tonight.
I'll just add that I alerted Terry that this was on the docket, and I said if we are going to seriously consider it, we're going to also need to have numbers ready. So I thought it was my responsibility to do the due diligence.
Maybe add to that. Why didn't you do one adding the calculus BC as well?
I don't want to turn this into a back and forth, right?
Yeah,
but we had already had that, as I mentioned,
Yeah.
we had that discussion.
I don't appreciate this.
Okay.
Okay. I mean, talking about the process, he was admonished because he's talking about the process here by my colleague. That's not a process. That's not a process to have this printed at 4:02 before any discussion. Do you have one without it? I believe you do. Right. So again, where's the calculus BC? That's fine. I don't want to dwell on this. My point number two, and I don't want to create controversy, but again, forgive me for having this mentality. Number two, increasing the tax levy. I'm against it. With all due respect to you and, talking about learning loss and everything, our constituents, including myself, including you, including everybody on the table, we are suffering, okay? Now, when they talk about the 8% inflation, this is ridiculous. I don't know how they do. They say they changed the formula back in 1892. It's just like fictitious. It doesn't mean anything. Go to the $1 store. How much they sell their items for right now? $1.25. It's the $1.25 store. It's not the $1 store, right? So to come and to increase the tax levy by 1.2%, that is not responsible, for the lack of better terms. We have to figure out how to expand our funds or fund our kind of activities with what we have, right? Going and asking on May 16, you mentioned May 8, it's May 16, asking the public to go and pay more taxes. I don't know. I'm going to vote no. I vote no as a board member tonight. I'm not going to vote for the budget, okay? I mean, that's kind of here, full disclaimer here. Ridiculous? This ridiculous?
I didn't say ridiculous.
What did you say?
Sorry, Baz, just continue your comment.
Continue.
Teresa, it's fine. He's got the floor.
Okay. So we have the responsibility, we are elected to do the best with what we have, not to increase our tax in addition to everything else. Calculus BC, what do I have to say here? Yeah, we heard the teachers telling us they can do it, and the board tonight said, no, thank you, we're not interested, okay? My last point, will the board be involved in approving hiring professional development consultants, or we don't have a say in that?
We're not using comments to open up like a whole new agenda item. That's not,
No, it
that
came
would be
up.
an entirely new item of discussion.
Just came
I
up.
responded to you before because it was a direct question of me, but
It's
we're
a
not.
budgetary item. I mean, consultants, they're not going to volunteer their time. They're going to get paid. It's a budget item. Okay, so let me mention, I heard about surveys being done and 60% approved of that specific consultant that was making insulting comments without going to the specifics. 60 to 40, okay, 60 approval, 40 disapproval. This is not a good result for a survey. I would like to see 100, 0, maybe it's not possible, 90, 10, like 90 approved, 10 disapprove. There was a scientist, Swedish scientist, I know personally through one of the professional associations. He pioneered the research in human comfort, human thermal comfort, right? I mean, like telling you, like, you feel hot here, well, take off your jacket. Don't turn on your AC, for instance, right? So he came up with something called the percent dissatisfaction. And he determined, it's a whole full-blown research, that if 80% of the population, he's talking thermal comfort, but I can extrapolate. If 80% of people sitting in this room tonight are comfortable with the temperature, it means the temperature is okay. What does that mean? 20% are not comfortable. Well, be it. You're not going to have 100. Some people are not going to feel comfortable for one reason or another. If you establish 80. So we didn't establish 80-20 with this specific consultant. We established 60-40, what I heard, what I think, read somewhere. I like, as a board member, the administration to be able or to succeed in hiring consultants that can give us 80% satisfaction as a goal, right? To have teachers insulted is not okay. To have students, because why are we training teachers? Because they want to go and project what they learned in the classroom with students. As Teresa keeps saying, and I agree with her, our focus is the students. I mean, always have the students' mind. What's the best for our students? We have LGBT community among our teachers. Yes, we do. We do have LGBT community kind of represented in a way among the students. Yes, we do. But that doesn't mean that we go and hire the wrong consultant to come and do the professional development.
And let's remember that we need to educate all of our children.
Bass, are you done? Okay, thank you, Bass. John?
So, a couple days ago, I had the opportunity to meet, actually, and talk with one of Cornwall Central High School's notable alums, David Petraeus. And two things came out of that conversation. One, his senior year, Cornwall beat Warwick for the Section 9 championship, and he was a soccer player, and that's all he wanted to talk about. The second thing that he imparted on me is that he still gets the Cornwall local and is very much in touch with what is going on in the community and looks fondly about his time when he grew up here in Cornwall. And I thought I'd just share that. And it kind of dovetails to Dragon Day in that these kids on the Leadership Council putting this together, when they're 40, 50 years removed from graduation, they're going to be able to look back and see the legacy that they left. And hopefully that legacy is bright. And the Dragon name will have survived that length of time once it's determined. So thanks to the Leadership Council for coming out tonight, for Mr. Simo and Mr. DeBold for actually creating that framework for our kids to develop and grow. Because that's truly what life's all about, especially for a school district, in my view. Thanks to CJ. Hopefully he's home studying. I want to address a couple things that came up in the comment period by others. And one is a word that I was requested not be used again, activism. Well, you know what? I'm going to use it. I don't believe activism has a place in education. Education, not indoctrination. And if an activist is not well received, much like Bass has talked about in terms of that 80% rule, I like to use the 75% rule myself, but I understand his point. If the feedback is not glowingly positive, and no one has showed me that it was glowingly positive, by the way. The feedback that I had access to, that Terry was kind enough to provide, suggested it was not the right fit. But be that as it may, one thing that has come out of that process is that it's affected the kids. And how has it affected the kids? Because that type of professional development for the teachers are supposed to find their way into the classroom and help manage the classroom and help the kids learn better. Now, I understand the LGBT thing. I have friends. I'm not saying that we should not talk about that in school. It's a fact of modern day reality, life. We do need to talk about it. But who we bring in should have the right credentials such that the message is loud and clear for the audience, which were the teachers. And from what I read, the message was incredibly mixed, and the quality of the discussion was suspect, at least from what I was able to glean from the survey results that we were able to provide, or were able to receive that was provided. And that was just one school. So I'm sure it was similar in the other schools that also provided feedback. So process is important because it affects the kids. And so to that end, when I look at the process that we followed, and Brendan, I'll give you credit, the process was very, very diligent. And that's good because it's organized. However, the use of $1.3 million, my view was that's a plug from a pro forma financial perspective. It's a plug. You're gonna figure out what that number is later. That became the number of which everything else fall in line. And we had needs that still are unaddressed, learning loss being one of them. I hope the social worker issue gets resolved. My hope is that the learning loss issue gets resolved, and maybe next year, as the remaining unassigned balances are being discussed in terms of how to use them, maybe the next board will allocate it to learning loss to deal with the about 11% drop in proficiency that occurred in Cornwall pre-COVID to post-COVID. And, oh, by the way, there are lots of school districts, Highland Falls being one of them, that actually increased their proficiency over that time period. So there's something that needs to be discussed and vetted, and our kids need more resources as it pertains to that. So when I think about that process, I sit back and I say, if our priorities are truly the kids, shouldn't the allocation of dollars be associated with social emotional learning and learning loss? It stands to reason that it would be. I voted no because I don't believe it's gone far enough. Not the dollar amount. I think the dollar amount's probably right. It's how that dollar amount is being funded. And the lack of addressing, especially at the middle school, the learning loss that needs to be remedied. The last thing about the process. Over the last 2 meetings, we've had teachers come to the dais, and I'm sorry, Ms. McDowell, I included you as a teacher, okay, counselor, but employees, valuable employees who are at the point of the spear in dealing with what our kids' needs are. How is it that at the 11th hour this surfaces? If the process were more robust, hopefully we wouldn't have these last-second kind of discussions. And so I would hope as we move to a better environment of collaboration and cooperation, that when the frontline people say this is what we need, they're listened to and we find a way to make it. And the answer isn't always on the back of the taxpayer, by the way. There's other ways that we can go about doing it. And using the unassigned fund balance is, I believe, one of them, since we've been running a surplus for the last umpty-ump years, ever since I've been a board member, which is now, what, in my 5th year. So anyhow, I think we can do a better job. I hope that as we move forward, we will take into account the smart ideas. As I mentioned before, none of us is as smart as all of us. And if we work together, I know Cornwall will achieve its potential. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Louis?
Thank you. So, we've gotten, and I appreciate everyone's input and what they've said. It's difficult. Richard, I think it kind of came out in your face on being the newer board member, a little newer to the budget world. I'm inferring. I'm happy with the budget. I'm confident in it. I'm happy that it was so detailed. The blues, the blacks. The need for that high school teacher was on there for some weeks. It was identified as a need. additional information at the very last minute came out. It surfaced. It's on there. I support that. I'm good with that. Again, I'm happy it was identified some weeks ago. CJ, the face-off master, he does kill it. I think he's like an 80% success rate. He nails it. And his younger brother, I'll plug him, is clipping on his heels. So good for them. And good for all our sports teams and all the good that they're doing. I've been to the fields and the tennis courts and some different places and I've seen some of the kids and all the efforts and the smiles, most importantly. I remember, the mask years behind us that there were smiles there, I'm sure, but you couldn't see them and you couldn't, feed off that jubilance. So I'm happy that our sports teams are out and the weather is cooperating and they're getting it done. The leadership council, everybody kind of summarized it, but what kind of resonated with me with the leadership council, and it's kind of in the name, is it's a student-run entity, and it impresses me how many student-run entities that we have, and student-run groups and student-managed groups. While the teachers are there, or the administrators there, or the mentors there to help kind of keep the ship in line here a bit, but in the end, it's the kids are doing it, and they're being empowered, and I think it's the right message to give to them, empowerment and give them the experience and not guide them so much, as a parent would with his own children. And I'll close with, to our students, best of luck to you on your finals and your tests upcoming. Get a good night's sleep, your parents will tell you, and eat well. I'll plug the vegetables if I can do that shamelessly. But best of luck to everybody during the upcoming testing season. Thank you.
Thanks, Louis. I'll try to be brief. Student Leadership Council, very impressive. We love seeing anytime our students can get involved in the community. If only we could warn them about what is ahead, and they go down the road of community service, but some lessons you have to learn on your own. I think this is, as I mentioned before, a very important night for the Board of Education. I think the budget that we voted on is going to have a significant impact on a lot of kids. Some of that is continuing the great things that have been going on over the past couple of years. I want to credit really everyone in the district. Again, building Level Up, Harvey, Megan, Terry. I know over the last few years with the federal funds, it's been kind of a laboratory of trying new things, seeing what worked, and to see that logical strain carry through each budget and now to this year when deciding, hey, we discovered something, a new model at this level, and we think that this is worth continuing. This is worth dollars. Those kinds of decisions, it's great to see the organization evolving and responding to a society, a community that is evolving. And I think that we now, Larry mentioned it, as a board, there is a period for internal debate, and we want to have all those debates out. But then there's a pivot moment when we now have to look outward. And you can disagree with any item in the budget, can even vote no, right? But when it comes to this moment, now we become trustees of the school district. We now look outward to the community as representatives of the school district. And it is so important that we provide a unified voice to that community. Like I said, we don't get everything we want. That cannot be a standard that you can walk through life and adhere to. It's never going to happen. But we have taken an oath as trustees of this school district to do what's best for this school district. I've brought up this example before. Compare it to a corporate board. The board of Apple can have it out over whether they should support the MacBook or the iPad. Maybe a lot will disagree. If in the end, Team iPad wins, Team MacBook doesn't say, oh, you know what? Forget about Apple. I'm going to go trash Apple in the papers. That would be a terrible thing for Apple. So the same logic applies here. The period for internal debate is over. We voted, we adopted a budget. The period now for external unity has begun. I would implore everybody to take that responsibility seriously. A motion to adjourn the meeting. Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carried.